The Boston Red Sox have a lot of questions to ask themselves entering this offseason. There's a bunch of different ways they could go about this offseason, right? You have got a bunch of pending free agents, guys like Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, Nathan Valdi. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but there is a lot of pending free agents. Also, a lot of money coming off the books. What does that mean? Well, they're going to have to figure out what that means, what path they want to go, and what their priorities are for this offseason. So right here on Bleacher Brawls, I'm going to cover what should be the Red Sox priorities of the offseason. This is part one. This is the Red Sox pitching priorities for the 2022-2023 offseason. First things first, the big thing I think when you look at a pitching staff has to be the starting rotation, right? If you don't have guys who can start the game, it doesn't matter what kind of bullpen you have. The bullpen's always going to be taxed. They're not going to have guys that are able to pitch enough. If your starters cannot get deep into games and pitch well, and your team's not going to do well if your starters can't pitch well. So, looking forward to 2023, there's really a few guys who really stick out as okay, they're definitely going to be on the team. It's Brayan Bello, Nick Pivetta, Chris Sale. We know his injury problems. We're not going to get into that, but Chris Sale is going to be on the team. And then who knows? Maybe James Paxton. Maybe. That's to be seen. But for this, we'll assume James Paxton will be on the 2023 team, assuming the Red Sox decline his team option and he accepts his player option. We will do this under that assumption. So set for the rotation, they have Chris Sale, James Paxton, Nick Pivetta, Brayan Bello. That is 4 guys. They're losing from the rotation most notably Nate Eovaldi and Michael Wacha. They are also losing Rich Hill. So this kind of brings in the question, what do you do with the rotation? Do you want to put Halkin Whitlock back in the rotation? You got to answer that question. Do you want to bring back Michael Wacha or Nate Eovaldi, if not both? So you got to ask yourself that question as well. Do you want to sign any free agent starters maybe to replace guys that are leaving? Got to ask yourself that question. And if you want to sign any free agent starting pitchers, who are you going to sign? And let's start with the last one. We'll start that last one first. Who would you want to sign if you're going to replace a couple guys who have left? I think Nate Eovaldi, his time with the Red Sox, I think unfortunately it's coming to an end. I just don't really see a world where they bring him back, especially considering what he's going to cost. I'm not saying he couldn't be good for the Red Sox next year. I just don't really see. I feel like some team's going to kind of overpay for him based off 2020 and 2021. And even he wasn't bad in 2022 either. So I feel like some team's going to give him a decent sized deal. I don't necessarily think it makes sense to do that. Also, I think they need to kind of refresh their team. A lot of these older veterans are just like pissed off at the front office about everything. Like, I think they kind of need some new energy into the team. That feels like they could have the backing from the front office if they need it. So when you're talking about bringing guys in, I don't think Michael Wacha stays either. I feel like similar situation in Baldy, but I think even more so. I feel like someone's going to overpay Michael Wacha. I feel the Red Sox are going to set themselves. I feel like they do this in free agency in general with Chaim Bloom steering the ship. They set a maximum they want to pay a guy. We will not go over this amount to pay that guy. Once they realize they cannot pay him that amount of money or less, they're out on that guy. So I feel like a perfect example of this, go back to the offseason they had Kike Hernandez, the 2020-2021 offseason. They were going after Jerks and Profar. Profar won in 3 years. The Red Sox seemingly only wanted to offer him 2 years. He goes to the Padres on that 3-year deal, $21 million. They flip around to Kike Hernandez, offering the same deal they seemed to be offering Jerks and Profar, and Kike takes that deal. You get your super utility guy for 2 years, $14 million. That's what happened. I think they have a set limit of how much they're willing to pay a guy, and once they realize they have to go over it, they're out on that guy. So with that, I think a guy I want them to target the most is Carlos Rodon, because I don't see them having a true number one. I think Brayan Bales a kind of like a budding ace. He's not an ace yet. We'll see if he can reach being an ace at some point, but he's one of those young starters that has this massive potential, right? So we got to see where he goes, but he's looked a lot better recently. I I do have an article on him on the Bleacher Brawls website that just went up, so check that out. And that kind of shows my thoughts on him more so. But besides Bayo, he's got guys super high potential. We got Chris Sale. You know what he can do, but he's got to stay healthy. That's a big question mark for him. Nick Pivetta, he's solid, but he's not going to be a number 1 or number 2. Probably not a number 3 on a legitimate, contending team. He's probably best as a number 4. And then you don't have a number 5 right now. Here's how I see the rotation playing out. You have Bales kind of going to be your number 3 or number 4, depending on who you sign. I did say we have Paxton. Paxton isn't such a mass. Paxton's an unknown, so you got to slide him to a 5 spot. You got Pivetta at the 4 spot, Bayo at the 3, Still at the 2. You need a 1. Carlos Rodon can be that guy, but I've also looked at it and gone, you can't trust these guys injury wise. Why not start the season with a 6-man rotation? And you can either sign another starter to come in, or you can start the season with Houck in the rotation. And we'll get to that whole Houck in the rotation situation in a second. But even if they bring back Walker or Valdi, or they get out and go and get a Rodon or a Chris Bassett or whoever the guy could be, you're looking at it and you go, okay, well, you got that whatever signing, get that one signing, then you have Sale, injury, who knows, Bayo, Pivetta, Paxton, massive unknown, and then that's your rotation. Boom, there it is. And you look at that and you go, well, there's 2 massive unknowns right there, and massive injury unknowns. Guys who have been injury prone in a sense. Don't really want to do that. Don't want to get too close to that. So my suggestion would be go start the season, try and figure out a way to start the season with a 6-man rotation. And if you can use Tanner Houck in the rotation because you can get a bullpen arm, I think they should look to do that. And I think Houck's probably better in the bullpen, but I don't think he's a bad starter either. And I think maybe give him another shot. I think Whitlock's kind of set in the bullpen, but maybe give Houck another shot at this in the starter role, especially if you do run a 6-man rotation to start the season. I'm not saying you stick with it the whole year, but to start the season, I don't think would be a bad idea. Now, to bring Houck in the rotation, though, I think you got to get someone to replace him in the bullpen. You look at the bullpen right now, if everyone was healthy for the Red Sox, and this isn't including pending free agents, so no Matt Strahm. You're looking at Barnes in the 6th inning, Schreiber in the 7th, Whitlock in the 8th, Houck in the 9th. This is assuming everyone just goes 1 inning, and that's your ideal lineup for the bullpen. How you want to roll out those guys? Barnes, Schreiber, Whitlock, and Houck. I know Barnes was awful to start this year, but he's been a lot better since coming off the IL. I think Matt Barnes can be a good 6th inning guy, 7th inning guy. If guys need a night off, and maybe even once in a while jumping into an 8th inning role if you got a couple guys needing a night off. I don't think Matt Barnes is a bad relief pitcher. I think he is solid. I don't think he's anything special. We're not going to see that all-star Matt Barnes again, but I think he can be a solid piece in a bullpen. So I think he's kind of your 6th inning guy, your preferred 6th inning guy, 7th inning preferred guy, Schreiber, 8th Whitlock, 9th Houck. However, if you can go out and get a guy, I've said this in the Bleacher Brawls, one of my columns for Bleacher Brawls about a month ago or so. I want the Red Sox to try and get Edwin Diaz. I don't think it's likely that they get Edwin Diaz. But let's just say in a hypothetical world they get Edwin Diaz. Now you have Diaz for the 9th. You don't need Houck in the 9th. Yes, you could obviously go Barnes 5th, Schreiber 6th, Whitlock 7th, Houck 8th, and have the most nasty bullpen ever. But like I said before, when we just started this video, the bullpen doesn't matter if you don't have starters who can get to that bullpen. It doesn't matter. That's why I started with the rotation here in this video. The bullpen's great and all, but if you don't have a rotation, it doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of where it is. If you can put Houck in the rotation, get a 6-man rotation, and then if you're comfortable seeing that guy like Sale and Paxton are pitching well and they're healthy, then you can move Houck back into the bullpen. And obviously you get some depth in the minor leagues who can kind of make some spot starts here and there in the big leagues. I think you can do that as well. Get a couple guys like that. That would be big. But definitely, I think try and look to start a season with 6-man rotation. Because if Sale or Paxton, who I'm assuming both will be healthy to start this year, if one of them isn't for some reason start the season gets injured, well, you still have your 5-man rotation. You just drop from 6-man to 5-man rotation. Or, one guy struggling, let's say Paxton's struggling, you can take him out the rotation. Or if everyone's doing well and you're like a month in or so and everyone's pitching well, you can stick with the 6-man rotation you want. You can put Houck back in the bullpen. There's options it gives you, and it helps ease the feeling of unsureness in the 5-man rotation, having two guys who you're not really sure what they're going to look like for 2023. So I kind of lean to starting the season with the 6-man rotation. You get the bullpen. If they get Edwin Diaz, great. Maybe not. Maybe it's like you go out and get an Andrew Chafin, and you have Whitlock in the 9th, Schreiber in the 8th, Chafin in the 7th, or maybe Josh Taylor can come back and pitch well, and him and Barnes kind of split the 6th and 7th, or you figure it out. But you got to get it. I think they do need to get another bullpen guy if possible. I don't want to overspend on a bullpen guy. I think Edwin Diaz actually probably is going to end up in the 5-year, $110 million range, which would be record-setting for a closer. But you got to remember too, you're also, if you're trying to get him, you're bidding against the Mets and Steve Cohen, who doesn't care about overpaying a guy if he knows that he can perform. And we saw with Max Scherzer, he didn't care that he was paying Scherzer $43 million a year. Why? Because Max Scherzer's going to perform. He's going to do what you're going to ask him to do. So I think that there's a worry about anyone who wants Edwin Diaz of, oh crap, we got to go up and bid against Steve Cohen and the Mets. So there is that as well. But the Red Sox do have more than enough money freed to make that happen if they choose to go that route, because Sale's already locked in. Paxton, he's pretty much already locked in. Yes, you might want to add a guy to a rotation like a Rodon, or maybe you don't get that like kind of top end of the rotation guy. Maybe get another like bring back Walker or someone. But they have the money to make it happen, and two, they don't have to stop at the luxury tax. They can go over it if they choose. So they could go out and give Rodon 25 million a year, whatever it's going to be, 25 to 30 million a year. They can go give Edwin Diaz 20 million a year, and they still got like 40 million to spend. You can re-sign Bogarts if you need. That's going to be for next week's Red Sox show when we talk about position players. But they will still have movement available for them to make. They can still have options available, and it'll be very interesting to see where they go. Before I wrap this up, though, I do want to talk about what the full pitching side of things is going to look like for 2023. When I'm thinking about guys who I want on my team, I would like to bring back Matt Strahm. Or maybe Matt Strahm could be that kind of, like I said, 6th, 7th inning guy with Matt Barnes. Them kind of doing that based on matchups. But I would like to see a rotation. My preference would be Rodon, but if it's on Michael Walker or maybe they bring back Evaldi, I wouldn't be against it. But my preference would be Rodon. Obviously, my super preference would be Jacob deGrom, but that's not going to happen. But my main preference would be Carlos Rodon. Then you have guys like Sale, Bayo, Pivetta, and Paxton behind him. And then you have the 6-man rotation where you have Houck in that rotation. And then your bullpen, preference, Edwin Diaz. But if it's someone else, that another bullpen piece they get, cool. Garrett Whitlock, John Schreiber, Matt Barnes. I want Matt Strahm as well. Matt Strahm's not included in that extra bullpen piece. I want Matt Strahm to say, gonna have Josh Taylor. And then maybe it's and then Zach Kelly, Franklin, Herman, those guys can kind of figure out they can fight for the roster spot. So maybe they don't bring back Strahm and they let Kelly and Herman get on that opening day roster. But there's also 2 injuries, and Josh Taylor's a big question mark. So I think bringing back Strahm makes sense. Also, to kind of need a lefty in the bullpen. And if Josh Taylor's injured in my projected bullpen, there's not a lefty. So I think bringing back Matt Strahm would make sense. That's kind of how I see this, all of it shaping up. Or also a little bit to my preferences as well. And also, too, like you have 5-man rotation works and you put Houck back in the bullpen. Now you're looking at Barnes, Strahm, hopefully Strahm, and hopefully Josh Taylor if he can be healthy. Then you got Barnes, Schreiber, Houck, Whitlock, and Edwin Diaz maybe in the back end. That's like my pipe dream of a bullpen. Like that, like good luck against that bullpen if the starters can get you to that bullpen. And if they can, like that's a force to be reckoned with. The Mets this year are 80-0 in games they've led after 8 innings. That was of a couple of days ago, so I don't know what it stands at now. The Red Sox aren't bad, and they when they have a lead after the 8th inning, I think they're like 60-4, I think it was, or something like that. But you see it's the middle relief of the bullpen that kind of falls apart. And if you can slide a guy like Barnes into the middle relief and Schreiber towards the middle relief, it'll help that middle relief out more because you don't have to have Ryan Brazier pitching in the 5th inning. You could throw Matt Strahm in the 5th inning, or Josh Taylor if he's healthy, or Matt Barnes if you need to. There's options there, and having a strong bullpen helps it out. And if your starters can go 5 innings, and then you have all those different bullpen pieces you can play with, that's great too, and it can help when in the season you got to give a guy a day off in the bullpen. You have other pieces to keep the bullpen afloat and not just your bullpen doesn't just tank. But I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts and comments on what you would like to see for the Red Sox pitching staff in 2023. Next week, we will cover the offense side of things, the position player side of things, what I think the priority should be, what I think they should look to do, maybe some of my preferences, and what I think everything could look like heading into 2023. But we'll get to that next week. Thanks for tuning in to this video on the Red Sox pitching staff and their offseason priorities heading into 2023. This is part 1. Just like I said, part 2 will be out next week, so stay on the lookout for that. My name is Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls. Check out all the links in the description, and like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.